That song, Shalom, we're going to be bragging about this for the rest of our church's existence, but that song, Shalom, which Michael wrote, was written in response to what he's experienced from you at Crosswalk, which is really cool. And for us, which is so cool. Yeah, I love it. I mentioned as Michael was coming up, we got another Sunday with him, so he'll be back next week, and I'm asking him to speak into this joy theme a lot from all of his world travels, his experience as an artist, and a great thinker. I really respect your mind and how you articulate things and think, and so I think you've got something to offer us, Michael, next week, and so we're going to go a little deeper on that, and then on May 1st, Friday night, May 1st, we'll probably make this even cooler than it sounds initially, but Michael is bringing his mystical hymnal team here as part of his tour. That's been the plan all along, is that he would take some of what he's been doing here, gather some others, and go on tour with it, which he's going to be all over the West Coast and Texas and some other places in May. And we're one of the early stops on that. So come Friday evening, we may even make some foodie type things happen. I'm not sure about that yet, but it's possible that that we could build on that a little bit more, make it even cooler. But come to that, because it'll just be a great experience of just being together, breathing together, singing together, and magical things happen when we do that. So looking forward to that. All right, so today, good news, bad news, and good news for you. I'm talking about joy amidst the suck. And I was introduced to a pastor who's quite brilliant, and she had this great video that I was going to share with you today. And the good news is, first piece of good news is, you can still see that about 11 o'clock today. It will release on our website and on our app, which I hope you're enjoying and playing around with. But our tech, these screens are brand new, but we haven't hardwired them yet. And because it's not hardwired, the video isn't playing correctly, so I can't play it for you like I did in the early service. The early service people, any of you double dipping today, went to the early service? Yeah, all right. A couple of you did. She's fantastic, so you want to make sure you see her and listen to this. So the bad news is you're not going to get to hear her right now. More bad news, you have to listen to me right now. But the good news is you can go back and listen to her later, and she is well worth it because she digs into this idea of how do we find joy amidst the suck. And she talks about expressions of micro hope that we see here and there. And so that's what I want to talk about today. And it's an important Sunday to talk about this because last Sunday was Easter Sunday. And a lot of weird things happened on that Resurrection Sunday and after that. I'm not doing exactly what she did because she's she and I'm me, and this is our time, and she was talking about a month ago about similar things. But I just did a cursory glance at the Gospels and how they treated resurrection. And sometimes we think that the Bible is all synthesized and it's all saying the same thing all the time. That's just not true. These different Gospels were written by different communities at different times. They shared some resources, but not others. And so you see differences in them. And that's okay. Honoring that and allowing them to just be that is really, really important. Mark, the earliest Gospel. Okay, buckle your seatbelt on this one. If you look in most reputable Bible translations, you'll get toward the end of Mark. And you'll read part of the story that does not include the resurrection of Jesus. It includes an empty tomb, but then it's just a big question mark. And you'll see an asterisk, and you'll follow it down, and it'll say, the earliest manuscripts of the Gospel of Mark ended here. The early ending of the Gospel of Mark. It's fascinating. And then you can read on a little bit more, and there is a little bit of a resurrection story in there that shows up, the longer ending of Mark, which is interesting, and the Great Commission is sort of referenced in that. Which then makes sense when you go to the Gospel of Matthew, because Matthew borrowed from Mark. And so you see an almost exact kind of thing, except he adds there's a greeting outside the tomb somewhere. And the women who went to prepare his body for burial, they're there, and they see him. And then there's this Great Commission just sometime later. And then if you go to the Gospel of Luke, it gets even more profound. More stuff happening. In this one, you have the disciples Easter Sunday evening. A couple of them are walking to this little village called Emmaus. And all of a sudden, Jesus, resurrected, is walking with them. But they have no idea who he is. They're just walking along the road. And Jesus, apparently in a different kind of form, a different kind of expression, whatever this resurrected form might be, starts quizzing them a little bit. Like, why are you so upset? You seem really sad. And they go into, this person we were following, Jesus, he was, we thought he was the thing, and then he got killed, and now there's rumors about somebody stole his body, and some people are saying nonsense about resurrection. We're just a hot mess. And Jesus starts to unpack with them, tying what his life was, and even the resurrection, with old scriptures from the distant past, but they still don't recognize them until they get to their destination in Emmaus. And as they're getting around the table together, and they break bread together, this meal together, then their eyes are opened, and they recognize this is the Jesus that we were following. Which is why, if you were at our Monday, Thursday service, and Angie taught so well, we wanted to do it differently. That maybe our whole point is to get back to that bread moment, that there is an experience of the divine. Our eyes are opened in the breaking of the bread, which is how Luke continues. Jesus goes back to the upper room, and he has an experience with the disciples breaking bread. Gets into some other interesting theological stuff, but that's enough. And then he ascends to heaven, and it gets picked up again in the book of Acts, because Acts, the author of Acts is the same person who wrote Luke. And so they have kind of a dovetail there and how those things work together. And then you have the Gospel of John, which is my favorite. It's one I did my doctoral work on. And I love so much what we see there, which we talked a little bit about last week. But a couple of things that we see there, again, Jesus isn't quite a total, normal, physical, fleshy human being. It's weird. The stories don't make a ton of sense. All of a sudden, he shows up behind locked doors with the disciples. Somehow made that happen. It's very, very curious. It's meant to make you ask questions and wonder, what can the meaning of this be? That's a good, healthy thing to do. And then 8 days later, he's in a similar situation in that same upper room, but now Thomas is there. He apparently wasn't there before, but he'd heard about it, and he's doubting it the whole time. Like, I don't buy this stuff. I'm not going to believe this unless I can stick my fingers in his wounds in his hand and his side. Remember that story? You saw the movie. And so he's finally there, and Jesus challenges him. I dare you, to put your fingers in my side, in my wounds. And he does and believes. It's this incredible moment. But then, even after that, the disciples are instructed to go back up to their homeland, up to the north, and meet him at the Sea of Galilee. And so Jesus makes his way up there somehow, and the disciples are out fishing one morning. They see some guy on the shore who's asking them, how's the fishing going? And the disciples are like, it sucks. We haven't caught a thing all night. And Jesus says, well, try throwing the nets in on the other side. And so begrudgingly they do that, and they get this massive haul of fish. And then their eyes are opened. Oh my gosh, this has to be Jesus. And so they make their way back to shore. Interesting thing though, Jesus has already caught some fish. He's already got a fire going. He's already made breakfast for them. The disciples are milling around, but then John gives us this phrase, this little parenthetical comment. And he says about the Gospel of John and about the disciples in that moment, he says, they weren't quite sure if it was Jesus, but they just knew that it must be. It's a crazy thing. And again, this just leans into this mysterious thing of the resurrection and how we think about it. When we go literal on this, when we get dogmatic on it, we really lose the richness of the story. And its power actually is robbed from us. But if we can think about this differently, and think about this as metaphor and things that the disciples really did experience in some form and fashion, because it's remembered, it's written down, and it's passed on for all these generations, 50, 60 years after Jesus' life, then maybe there's something here that we can resonate with today. And I think there is. Because that weekend, as joyous as that Easter Sunday must have been, it started off terrible. They watched their dear friend, their leader, their teacher, the person they were willing to go to the mat for, die. Not just die, but a torturous execution. It could not have been worse. And that grief that they were feeling in that moment on Friday all day, and knowing that he died on Friday, and so all day Saturday they're just reeling in this grief. And then Sunday still reeling, but now they're getting these crazy stories. Even if they have these experiences of resurrection, that does not wipe out the grief of their body because our bodies carry the grief. Have any of you ever experienced that? You know what I'm talking about? And any amount of good news doesn't just tell your body to get out of the stress and the angst of that emotional weight that you've been carrying. So it was this crazy, weird, dynamic tension that was at place, which is such the human experience, right? Of dealing with great sorrow, great gravity issues, and yet at the same time, this hopefulness, this vision of something more that is calling you forward, sort of balancing the equation out, not erasing the grief, which must remain, but reminding us that there's something else even at the same time. The way our brains are wired, Susan Sparks, the pastor that we got to see in the early service, she reminds us that it has a name to it. It's called the negativity bias. The negativity bias is that we prefer negative things. Our brains are hardwired to notice the negative. Part of our lizard brain thing that we all carry around with us. It's why in the news media, you've heard the phrase, it's been around for a very long time, if it bleeds, it... Hey, great, you do know it. All right, if it bleeds, it leads, meaning if it's a bad news story, that's what we're going to go with. The headlines are going to be bad news because that's what's going to draw us in. Our lizard brains just can't get enough of that. We need to be afraid of something, so let's see what we can find out in the news. Even with this amazing story about Artemis 2, anybody follow that journey over the last 10 days or so? It wasn't amazing, the kinds of things that happen with that. And so as they're making their way around and they're coming back home, what are the headlines on that? Will the heat shields hold up? This could be terrible. You know what I mean? Rather than just saying, yeah, I know, it was terrible once, but they probably really thought hard about how we're going to make sure that doesn't happen again. Rather than focus on the positive, we just go to the negative, the horror of the whole thing. That's how it is in our media. That's why it's really a bad idea to just doom scroll and go through the headlines and go deep, because if that's all that we're giving our brains, that's all that we're going to get out of it is just this negative junk. And it's not going to help us. In fact, sometimes we can be so overwhelmed by the bad news that is out there all the time that we forget that we are also swimming in joy. We're swimming in love. How can I possibly say that? It's because we believe that there is this thing called the divine. It gets clumsy when we start to try to put language onto God. So we use broad language, broad terms, metaphorical terms, our ground of being, the breath of life, the genesis of everything. This is God that we're talking about. And the way we've come to see God and how we talk about God here at Crosswalk, we use a very fancy word now and again called panentheism. Not pantheism, but panentheism, which means all in God. The idea is that everything, the expanding universe and everything in it is in the divine presence. So that when we breathe, we really are breathing more than just air. Which makes me pause just to remember one more time that wonderful lyric out of U2's Resurrection song that we looked at last week. Love is in the air, so let's take a breath. If love is in the air, let's take a breath. Is it possible that we need to remind ourselves to take a minute, to take a beat, to notice, to make room, to notice the joy that is all around us, even when all the headlines tell us that's just not true? Because it is. It's all around us. And I bet you already know this because you've lived this. I bet, just like the prompt question at the earliest part of our service asks you, I bet there have been times when you have experienced great depths of grief and stress, and in the same moment, in that same chapter, you're also experiencing great joy and great love. You know what I'm talking about? It happens at most memorial services that I get to be a part of. It's one of the weird honors of being a pastor is I'm there a lot when people die and for their memorial services. I'm around all that. And I'll tell you, as a guy who's officiated literally hundreds of memorial services over 30-something years now, that I regularly see two things happening at the same time. I see great grief over the loss of a loved one, of course. But then, in the telling of the stories and the pictures that come on the screen. Even in the moment of great agony and grief, you hear laughter. You see tears of love. Two things can be true. We can be in the midst of the suck and also in the midst of this great divine that is known as love and joy and peace and grace. It's happening all the time. But do we have the eyes to see it, is the question, especially in the moment. About a year and a half ago, a little more than that now, my mother-in-law passed away, and we had a memorial service for her a month later. Carolyn was an absolute joy. I got to be a part of that memorial service too, and I was tasked with a couple interesting things that were contrasting. One was to do my normal benediction, the God be with you little song that I do almost all the time. But then, because it fit, I was asked to lead the congregation in Sweet Caroline. You know that song, Sweet Caroline? Hey, all right, very good. Yeah, and it was a thrilling experience. So you need to know that this church where my mother-in-law attended was kind of known when I was back in college, and I would tour around with the choirs and stuff. There were a couple of churches that we knew that after we sang the very best, liveliest song we possibly could, there would be absolutely no response from the audience. Crickets every time. It was it was for reverence and all that. I get it, but I'm making fun of it now, of course, because why not? So anyway, this is the church, and now they're asking me to get this congregation humming and kicking, with Sweet Caroline. So is this possible in this kind of setting where we're there to grieve the loss of this incredible woman named Carolyn? And so, what happened is people actually took the bait. And the congregation rose, and they clapped. And when it came to the time for the dot, dot, da, the whole place rang out dot, dot, da at all the right times. Isn't it strange that a time of great grief, you can also have great joy? You can experience great love in the face of terrible grief. In fact, isn't it true that the reason we grieve so deeply is because of our great love? The reason we can laugh so heartily at the memories is because of the depths of our relationship with those people. Well, it doesn't stop there. The very next morning when we were getting our stuff together to fly out, we had one of these God wink moments. And you can call me nuts, that's fine, but I'm taking it for what it is. What you need to know about Carolyn is she was a big nature lover. She loved birds too, just loved birds. And she would take the grandkids. There's not a lot in Kansas, so she did the best she could. But she took them out to a nature preserve in Lawrence, Kansas, and would hike them around there and looking at things. She loved to get the kids noticing nature, and she loved birds. And as we were packing up our stuff that morning at whatever Courtyard Marriott on this river, the Kansas River, I looked out the window, and so did Noah, who happens to be here, and we saw what we could not believe. 20 feet away from our windows, if that, is a bald eagle, just sitting there. And as we were sitting there, we were thinking, at least I was thinking, out of all the places, there's lots of bald eagles all over the place, but out of all the places a bald eagle is going to choose to land, and it chooses to land right in front of our rooms for us to just admire. So we're looking at this thing, and we're thinking, it's going to fly away. No, it's just hanging out. And I just wonder sometimes if we get these, if somehow we're connected to everything and everyone, I just wonder if sometimes things are working out in some way that the divine just gives us a little nod, a little nudge, a little something to help us through. And I wonder if the resurrection experiences were kind of like that. These experiences that they can hold on to, that are going to keep them going for a while, because it was going to go from this moment into more hardship, because now they're known as the followers of Jesus, and they're not shutting up. That was supposed to shut them up, but instead of shutting up, they just kept declaring it more. And I think it's because they had these moments, these touches of the experience of the divine, And it just reminded them that it's not all grief, because we're also swimming in love. And so that brings me to an interesting challenge that I have for you, because I firmly believe that no matter how bad it's going for us, there are moments for us to experience the divine, to experience the beauty of life all around us, more expressions of love happening. And so I have a challenge for you. Now in the video, if you go and watch the video that we featured in the early service, she was teaching on what's called Transfiguration Sunday. It's another weird one. It's kind of right around the beginning of Lent, and it's a weird one where Jesus takes a couple disciples, and they're up on a mountaintop, and this weird thing happens where he's joined on this mountaintop by Moses and Elijah, and they're having a conversation, and it's kind of weird. But I think it's where the pastor goes with this is that's one of those moments that they remember that's going to take them through what we call the Lenten season. Well, I think Easter is like that, but we have a new target now, 50 days or a little less than that ahead. The next big holiday for Christians is called Pentecost. It's 50 days after Easter. At that moment, that's when not just a few disciples, but a whole lot of people get their eyes open and their minds blown about the presence of God in their midst. All kinds of crazy stuff happens that makes them really blown away, and it changes the trajectory of that new church. They only increase in their boldness. Well, what's going to get us from now till then? It's these moments of remembering that we're in it all the time. So my challenge for you, this is a joy challenge, is that you will help us capture images of joy now through May 23. And I hope we get something from you every day. Because as you're walking around, I don't care what it is that brings you joy. It could be a snail, and you're just like, look how slow that snail's moving. That brings me joy. That's fine. If it's a flower, if it's a beautiful scene, that's fine. But start sending them in. And I also want to encourage you to do something else. I want to encourage you to email them to Crosswalk, info@Crosswalk Napa. That will get it there. We'll share them as we're able on Sundays. And then we're going to put them all together, all the ones that we get to you in a photo montage type thing, which we'll roll on Pentecost Sunday when we're all back together to celebrate that. And we'll be reminded of the joy that was in our midst for 50 days together. And I also encourage you to post it on your socials. Now, if you remember to hashtag Crosswalk Napa, that's great because it'll tell people that we're a church that's trying to accentuate joy and all that. But if you don't, that's fine too, because when you put your stuff out on social, I mean, think about it. You put out a cool thing. I'm thinking Sunrisa here, right? We got this beautiful baby in our congregation, Sunrisa. I have a hunch that we're going to see some Sunrisa pictures out there, because why wouldn't we, right? And wouldn't it be great if all these people, you, are putting this stuff into the socials to counteract all the negative stuffs out there. Now you have all these people that are just talking about joy, getting more joy into the world. You are going to be conduits of joy if you do that. So that's an invitation to you to do that this coming month as we get toward Pentecost. And one of you has already given us a great example how to do that. So about, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so, when we were talking about the character and nature of God and the panentheism and all that, and that we're constantly in it if we have eyes to see it, ears to hear it, and hearts that are open to it, minds that will accept it, that we're kind of in this thing, like, and we don't even know that we're in it. Kind of like a fish, in water. And if you ask the fish, tell me about water, they're just going to look at you funny and say, I have no idea what you're talking about, because they're constantly swimming in the water. They don't even know what they are in. I think we human beings are kind of like that when it comes to God. We're swimming in it all the time. So at that praxis meeting, that sort of caught on with us. And one of our crosswalkers here, who's swimming in it a lot, is Candace Ramsey. And so she will commonly say, when we're doing a check-in and praxis, or I'll get an email or a text from her as she's walking dogs, that's her business, and she'll say, I'm swimming in it today. Well, just this past week, I got a great shot from Candace. This. So this was Thursday, right, Candace? Yeah. This was Thursday. It was a couple hours before the rains were going to come. And this is Alston Park that you're seeing, kind of where those balloons are landing, where she takes the dogs for a walk. And she just had to pull over, as did many other cars, to capture this beautiful image. This happened. This is happening, even while all the bad news is too. But how different might our lives be if we would take just a moment to capture it, to remember it, to savor it. That's how we live with joy amidst the suck. That makes sense? All right, so you know what your challenge is. Between now and May 23, send us your photos, email them to us, put them to your socials, make the world a little bit brighter place, and then we'll just see what happens after that. All right, well, let's pray together, and I have a version of the Lord's Prayer that I'd like you to pray with me in a moment. But right now, just close your eyes with me. Take a deep breath, because if love is in the air, then let us breathe. I just want to acknowledge that some of you here today may be in a really hard spot. It just feels like it's too much. And I honor that and I respect that. And I want you to know that it may be very difficult for you to see anything right now, and that's okay. I do want you to know that you're loved, that you're not alone. The presence of God is in you and with you, loving you all the way through. And so are so many people here, including me. So if you need that shoulder, if you need that ear, you're not alone. Please reach out and know that you're loved. And all of us, God, if we're honest with ourselves, struggle. Our lizard brains want to take over every time. I want to remind us of how awful it is and how terrified we must be, which works great sometimes, but a lot of times it just makes life really dark. And so remind us, God, Spirit of God, breath of God, that we are swimming in it. We are swimming in divine action. It can only be missed if we're not paying any attention at all. So God, may your Spirit give us pause to just notice, to take a minute away from our phones, away from the headlines, to just appreciate the beauty and the life that is everywhere. And if we can't get outside, then God, help us just look at our thumbs or something, because they are remarkable. Remarkable. God, be with us to remind us that even amidst the suck, there is also joy, because you are there, and we are with you, and you are with us, and that's how it will always, forever be. Now I ask you to turn your gaze to the screen, and let's say this adaptation of the Lord's Prayer together. Source of love, life, hope, and joy, we ground ourselves in you. In a world sometimes hell-bent on chaos, we choose to honor peace. Guide us to be helpful in serving others. Help us accept grace and offer grace when we and others miss the mark. Help us live in and as love amidst the suck, for love is all that really is. Amen. You want to do Yeshua?